In today's show, it's a masterclass on how to overreact. Learn from the best. Shaedon Sharpe should start. The Blazers should go smaller than they ever have before. It's one game and we already know all the answers. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond, listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Why not make this show your first listen every single day? Free on all platforms, 5 days a week. The only daily Trailblazers podcast. Start your day listening to Locked On Blazers and tell your friends to do the very same. Today's show, I am going to teach you how to overreact. Really show you how it's done. The Blazers played one basketball game. They beat the Sacramento Kings. This is Friday, October 21st show, and on Friday evening, they're going to play the Phoenix Suns. On Sunday, they're going to play the Lakers. By the time we talk again, they'll have played two more games. So before we get into two more games, a little more action on the court to kind of learn from the crew, let's overreact. I'm gonna show y'all how to do it. I got serious overreactions, and we'll close the show with maybe a little more grounded thoughts. This was inspired by one, just like the nature of the beast, right? Like everyone's like, don't overreact to one game, but you can't help yourself. Like you, dear listener, me, podcaster, whatever. Like it's impossible. It's impossible not to see one game after you've been waiting months and months and months to see a game that counts, see your team play well, and be like, okay, I'm gonna dial it back. I'm gonna dial it back. Or see your team play poorly, right? And be like, okay, I'm gonna dial it back. It's the nature of the beast. But it was really inspired by I was getting prepped for the show last night, and I got looking at Twitter, and someone sent me a tweet, and it said, Shaedon Sharpe has 9 points in 7 minutes. Do you think that the Sharpe-Ant backcourt could be better than the Dame and CJ backcourt has ever been? 7 minutes. 7 minutes into Shaedon Sharpe's career. It was a fun 7 minutes. Legitimately very fun 7 minutes, but seven minutes into my man's career. And we're talking about, is this the best backcourt since Drexler and Porter? Are we talking about the second best backcourt or maybe the best backcourt in Blazers history? A duo who had literally at that point, I don't think had shared the court together. I don't think Ant had sub back in at that point. Maybe Ant had sub back in for like a minute, but it was like, it was beautiful. I love to see it. And so inspired this episode. Here's how you overreact to one game. Shaedon Sharpe should start. That's the real overreaction. The correct overreaction is not that Shaedon Sharpe could be this guy down the road and in the future and all these things. Shaedon Sharpe should start game 2 and game 3 and 4 and through 82 and into the playoffs and into June when the Blazers win the championship. Shaedon Sharpe should start every single game, and here's why. 1, makes Josh Hart the sixth man. That solves so many problems. That means every single bench unit has Damian Lillard and Josh Hart, or Anthony Simons and Josh Hart. There it is. You're always playing Dame or Ant when after that first substitution with an elite two guard. It solves that sort of two guard defender problem that the Blazers have had. Two. You already know that the Shaedon Sharpe starting means you have an elite wing core coming off the bench. You got Josh Hart, you got Justice Winslow, you got Nazir Little. No one in the league, maybe outside for the Clippers, could tout that many good wings coming off the bench. Shaedon Sharpe should start because it perfects the Blazers' depth question. It makes them perfect. And Shaedon Sharpe should start because he's already shown elite chemistry playing alongside Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons. Shaedon Sharpe has made 4 shots in his career. The first one was assisted by Anthony Simons. The second one was assisted by Damian Lillard. The third one was assisted by Dame for a dunk. And then somehow Nazir Little snuck in there and assisted the fourth bucket. Shaedon Sharpe has elite chemistry with the Blazers' best players, Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard. He has elite chemistry playing off the ball, and his inclusion in the starting lineup allows Josh Hart to make the Blazers an elite bench team. He fixes their depth issues. Shaedon Sharpe is ready to go. He should start game one. The solution is obvious, and after 15 minutes of his career, where he just looks so fluid and so comfortable, we don't need to see any more. He's ready to go. He's a starting small forward in the NBA. I know Paolo Banchero had 27 points in his NBA debut, but Shaedon Sharpe is better than him. He's better than all of them. He's a future multi-time MVP. Get him in the lineup now. That's how you overreact. That's how you overreact to game one. I got other overreactions. You ready? Follow me to the second segment, because I got an overreaction about the Blazers going small, how to fix the Jusuf Nurkic problem, and everything else you need. But first, let me tell you about BetOnline. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. More lines, more props, more odds than you're going to find anywhere else. The Blazers play the Phoenix Suns on Friday evening, and right now, as I'm recording this on Thursday, the Blazers are home dogs. Suns are favored by 4 points. You want to go win some money betting on this team? Betting on your Portland Trail Blazers? Right now, you can get pretty juicy odds on them to cover, even juicier odds on them to just straight up win the game of 4-point home dogs in their home opener. Over under in that game, 224.5 according to BetOnline. So you think it's going to be high scoring and the Blazers win? Take the over, take the Blazers to cover. You're making a little money and having a little fun. You don't want to bet on the NBA, football all weekend long, college and pro. Major League Baseball playoffs still going on. You got combat sports. You're going to have soccer all over the globe. Whatever it is, you're going to find it on BetOnline. Go check it out. All right. I even got ahead of myself overreacting to Shaedon Sharpe. I didn't mean to call him a multi-time MVP, but that's what happens when you embrace the momentum of overreactions. You embrace the momentum of overreactions. The point of these jokes are kind of to see the real truth of what we learned from one game. But it's also to teach you how to overreact. Some of you have said, I've preached patience. Some of you have said, I think Shaedon Sharpe can be a superstar down the line. Some of you have said, I think this small ball thing is going to work. I'll take it one step further. This is how you overreact to the Blazers playing 14 possessions of small ball basketball, 12 possessions according to cleantheglass.com, Ben Falk's indispensable stats website. Here's how you overreact to 12 possessions of really effective small ball to close out the Kings. The Blazers go small to close that game. Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart, Justice Winslow, Jeremy Grant. It worked really well. Justice Winslow was able to guard Domantas Sabonis. They were able to put Jeremy Grant and some serious length on De'Aaron Fox, and the Kings struggled down the stretch in the final 5 minutes. It was just a wonderful move, and it worked. So why wait? Start small. Listen, you want to know why they should start small? Because this was the best of all of the 5-man units, of all of the lineups that Chauncey Billups deployed in game one. This was by far the most effective. In those 12 possessions, they scored 1.3 points per possession. That would be the greatest offense in the history of the sport. Start small. They had a net rating of almost 67, 66.7. That means they outscored in the 12 possessions they were on the court against the Kings. They outscored the Kings 66 points on a rate of 66 points per 100 possessions. So to extrapolate that to a game, Blazers win a game by 60. They win a game by 60. Start small because it works. Start small because it works. And start small because it makes Jusuf Nurkic better. Here, let me tell you why it makes Jusuf Nurkic better. Nurkic's probably right in the range of average NBA starter. He's borderline top 10 center in the league when he's at his peak. He's sometimes below that. He's something like the 15th best center in the league, right? He's right. He's just exactly what an average NBA starter looks like at that position. If you make him a backup center, he's the best backup center in the NBA. If you start small, Jusuf Nurkic comes off the bench. And when Jusuf Nurkic comes off the bench, he bullies, dominates, and absolutely destroys second units. Start small because it gives Jusuf Nurkic a chance to come off the bench and be the focal point of the offense, something that more of a focal point of the offense, I should say, if we're being realistic in overreactions, more of a focal point of the offense. Lets him be a bruiser to close the first and begin the second, and a bruiser to close the first and end the third. And if he's rolling along, you can ride with him into the fourth quarter. But you're not committed to him in the same way, and his role is more defined. So you're not yanking him for crunch time. You're intentionally using him before you get to crunch time. Start small. Start small because Jeremy Grant and Justice Winslow can clean up the back half of the defense. Start small because Winslow and Josh Hart are such good defenders that you're able to, or such good rebounders rather, that you're able to make up for some of your rebounding deficiencies with Grant as your tallest player on the court and playing a bunch of minutes of Dame and Anthony Simon. Start small, play small, embrace small ball because they already want to play a switching scheme. They already want to be aggressive and switch 1 through 5. And then when they do it with Jusuf Nurkic, he can get exposed. When they do it with a traditional center, you can get exposed and left out on an island. When you play 5 like-sized guys or 5, relatively like-sized guys, you can just play the scheme you want to play already. You can lean into what you want to do, lean into your defensive identity and do it more often. It doesn't stop you from playing zone, something the Blazers want to do, and it allows the Blazers to continue the defensive scheme that they've installed, embraced, and loved. Start small because it allows space on the floor for drivers. At the end of the game, when Jeremy Grant, with under a minute left, drove to the rim in game 1, got an and 1 foul, he had space to drive because the court was spread, because in the weak side corner, it was Justice Winslow drawing Domantas Sabonis a couple steps out of the paint, as opposed to a big man who was going to be in the dunker spot and allowing Sabonis to be already in close to help position or less worried about totally helping off. Start small because it works. Start small because you built this team to go small. You don't have many centers on the roster. Behind Nurk, you have Drew Eubanks, who is probably best as a third center, but he can be a break-the-glass center and be a really good one. You could even go super big in the second lineup if you go small and play funky. I'm not actually advocating for that part. That's the Shaedon Sharpe winning multiple MVPs overreaction part. But start small because it's who you wanted to be. The Blazers said all summer long that they thought they could get away with some minutes with Jeremy Grant and Justice Winslow playing some minutes at center. Then we didn't see it at all in the preseason. The first game they unleash it. After the game, Damian Lillard told reporters, and a couple other people confirmed this, a couple other players in the team confirmed this to the assembled media in Sacramento when the game ended, that they hadn't even practiced small ball. You know why they didn't practice it? Because they knew it would work, baby. It's the answer. And those 12 possessions will obviously translate to an infinite number of possessions moving forward. Start small, stay small, stick with it. Use Jusuf Nurkic as a sixth man. It's the solution. That's how you overreact. Learn from the best. That's how you overreact to 48 minutes of basketball. That's the masterclass that I promised. Thanks for indulging me in a little bit of fun. I think there's some real truth to be learned from this. Like, Shaedon Sharpe looked good and comfortable and competent. The small ball stuff works will work in small doses. And I think the important thing when you're trying to, and like, quite frankly, like I host a daily podcast, I have to overreact to stuff. I have to draw stuff out a little deeper than you want to be. I have to dive deeper and look for things. Like that's just the nature of it. I want to bring you a good show. I want to bring you an entertaining show. But like, I think the criticism I get sometimes with listeners is like, you're too measured. You don't get excited about stuff like that. Like, sure. Or the other way, like you're reading way too much into preseason, you dummy, that type of thing. So it's kind of just like, it's going to be the area I land in is kind of overreacting. But I think the real truth here to when you watch one game of basketball is to think about they're going to play more games. Like they didn't just play one, they're going to play more games. But like when you're trying to analyze, a larger, what did we learn type of thing from one game is like, what did you see that could be something that moves forward? And it isn't that Shaedon Sharpe is a starting small forward. It's that Shaedon Sharpe looks pretty darn comfortable and okay at 19, and that like he can continue to have an every night role. And I think moreover, the Blazers had a really good plan for Shaedon Sharpe. They didn't have him create on the ball at all. They basically stuck him in the corners. He only had catch and shoot opportunities. They ran one kind of option out of bounds set for him where he flared around a screen, and if he was open, he could shoot it. He was open, so he shot it and it went in. He worked the baseline really well, and that's kind of his spot from the corners, right? Like, stand in the corner as the drives come, work that baseline, just play basketball, read and react, like play with your feel for the game, play with it's like, I don't want to say like reduce it to like playground stuff because it's NBA defenses, but it's like just sort of natural playing basketball. When a guy drives vertical, you move horizontal. When a guy drives horizontal, when he goes to the baseline, vertical cuts towards the baseline. Like that's like pretty basic stuff. They had a really simplified plan for Shaedon Sharpe, and he killed it. He was so darn good at it. And this is at 19 with like very little seasoning before that. The like actual real non-overreaction takeaway is like, he's good to go and he should play. Like, and when Gary Payton does come back and he's healthy, whenever that is, like he's going to be reevaluated in a couple weeks, 2 weeks into the season. So you would imagine like he at some point has to get back out on the court, and then there's going to be some ramp up time. So 2+ weeks, if you're thinking about it logically, like Sharpe's going to be in the rotation for sure for all of those games. But like even when GP's back, like he would be the natural guy to get squeezed if it's not Nasir Little. But like keep it simple for him. Let him keep playing and make sure he has a role. I've been in big favor of him playing because I want him to get developmental minutes. He was better than I thought he had any chance of being in game one just because of his comfort level. Some of that is the 3-pointers went in. Like if he goes 1 of 3 from 3, it doesn't feel the same. But the fourth quarter 3 where he caught it, pump fake, sidesteps and hits it, like that's just a dude who looks fluid and smooth. He can play, make sure he plays, and make sure you follow the good plan that the Blazers coaching staff had for him. Like give him simplified stuff. Corner reads, spot up shooting, work the baseline, do what you do, and like use your skills. And if they keep it simple and he gets to utilize what is natural for him, he has incredible natural gifts. The good plan absolutely helped him excel in game one. Kudos to the coaching staff, organization. It's hard to tell. Like, I credit the coaching staff there, but like, how far up does the decision ladder go? We'll say kudos to the sort of Trail Blazers at large for that one. And like on the small ball stuff, small ball can work. Like that's what we learned in game one. It's not going to work every night. That's just the nature of it. Not every center is going to be as stubborn as Sabonis was going against Justice Winslow. I thought De'Aaron Fox played poorly down the stretch. Some of that is that Jeremy Grant guarded him really well. Some of it is he just did some boneheaded stuff. He didn't play as smart as he could. Other teams are going to have bigger apex wings, which will make the choices on who Grant guards or who Josh Hart guards a little bit trickier, and it might put Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard like in the point of attack in a way that the Kings really couldn't. Like, Herter was given the Blazers the business, but it wasn't like he was just shooting it really well. He wasn't like some apex wing who's just like really hard to deal with. He wasn't Kawhi Leonard where there's like just a real physical challenge if you put a smaller guy on him or if he can hunt a smaller switch. Like the Kings presented a lineup that absolutely small ball could take advantage of, and the Blazers went to it. That's the lesson, right? That in small doses, this absolutely works. And against the right matchups, this can absolutely work. So when you see it, go for it. Or if you need to switch things up because it's not working, go for it. That's the actual lessons learned. I want to close the show with a couple more. A big one that I think was pretty notable for me. So join me in the second segment and we're done overreacting. I have a real lesson learned from game one of the Blazers season. Join me there, won't you? Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked on Blazers. We overreacted. I showed you how to really overreact. You got to you lean into it, use your weight. But I think there's actual takeaways from this game. Like I don't think we learned like a great deal of stuff, but I think the Shaedon Sharpe stuff and how they used him is important. I think the small ball stuff, like it being as successful as it was, is like, and it's not fool's gold, but it's just like it's not going to be that successful again, always. But it can work, and I think we learned it can absolutely work. Like the it looks good enough that I'm comfortable with them trying it literally every night, and not just as like a gimmick, as like a go-to, as like a, hey, I think I talked about this in some preseason pods. It's like the small ball, the point of playing small is so other teams have to deal with your funkiness, not you match up with them and go small. It's like, we're going to go small and you'll have to mess with us. Like, how are you going to guard Jeremy Grant? You're not going to be able to guard him in space. Like that's like sort of the funkiness that you're going for when you play that small ball group. I think we learned those two things for sure. And the other thing we learned, and I think this was notable, the Blazers won a game in which Damian Lillard did not play very well on offense. He distributed the ball well, and I thought early on he really wasn't hunting his offense super aggressively. I think he was being pretty measured in the way that he made sure that that guys were getting touches, which is typically how Dame plays. Kind of feels it out early and then goes to get his offense late. He kind of flips the switch to be more aggressive, but even when he did, he just wasn't very good. He had a bad shooting night. The Blazers in Damian Lillard's career are 9-16 when he takes at least 8 3-point attempts and makes no more than 1. He was 1 of 8 from 3 last night, and the way he played, the way he played last night, typically they have lost more than they have won. 9-16 in those games. That's not so bad that it's game over or anything like that. Like I don't mean to suggest that, but it's like, typically in Dame's career, they have lost those games when he has played at that level. They didn't. And they didn't for a couple reasons. 1, good luck. 2, they have more shot creators than they've had in the past. In the third quarter, Josh Hart had 12. He went to work. He was really good and kept them afloat when early in that second half it was like, this thing might be getting away from him. And Hart was really good and kept them in it. And then Anthony Simons had 10 in the fourth quarter. Other players to go create their own offense. The Blazers just haven't had that luxury in the past. Like they've had play finishers. Throw it into Carmelo Anthony. Obviously, CJ McCollum can go get it. But like this version of Ant that we're seeing now, this version of Anthony Simons is better than all of the previous versions of Anthony Simons. That matters. And that shot creation is valuable and allowed the Blazers to escape. And Hart is a wing with a nose for the rim that can score like they really haven't had. Throw in Jeremy Grant, who had 23 points and was excellent in game 1 and scored a one-on-one drive from the top of the key, you can't guard me, and 1 bucket with under a minute left. The Blazers have not had this collection of individual shot creators in the Dame era. They've had better teams, to be certain, but they haven't had this number of guys that can catch the ball at 20 feet and get their own. You got to think Shaedon Sharpe can get there. Nazir Little, he needs to find his footing, but he has some shot creation juice in there as well somewhere. You could throw it into Nurk to finish some plays. Like Portland has more offensive tools and specifically individual creators than they've had in the past. And that matters. That matters absolutely, because it allows them to escape games where Dame shoots 1 of 8 from 3, where in the past they would typically lose. 9-16 is not like this. Like they always lose when Dame shoots this poorly, but it is indicative of what they've been, is that in games where he shoots poorly, they lose 2 out of 3, right? Like they lose. It's basically a 2-1 chance that they come away with a loss. That 9-16 number includes last night. So coming into last night, they were 8-16 in 24 games. They literally lost 2 out of 3 when Dame shoots that poorly. He shot poorly. They survived. That's a thing to know about this team. Maybe not to like feel good about. Like I'm not saying like, oh, Dame's struggling. That's actually a silver lining. Like I don't believe that. What I believe is a silver lining is that they have more and better shot creation, and that should help them moving forward. That's what I learned. That's what I actually learned. If you stuck around through the overreaction jokes, I think we did see some things we actually learned about this team. Friday they played the Suns. Should be a really good matchup. Suns came back from down 200,000 points to beat the Dallas Mavericks in a game where Chris Paul did not play down the stretch. What a weird one. Down 22 and they come back and finish the game with Damian Lee in place of Chris Paul. But I think how do they guard Devin Booker? How do they guard Chris Paul pick and rolls? Can can Jusuf Nurkic win his matchup against DeAndre Ayton? All really fun things that I'm excited to watch. Sunday's game is against the Los Angeles Lakers. A bad basketball team. I'm recording this before the Lakers-Clippers game on Thursday, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. The Lakers are bad, maybe, like a team that can't play defense or make 3-pointers. Yikes. Anthony Davis is gonna have 200 points now that I said that, so maybe 300. So whoops. But I think the Suns a really nice test. The Lakers is a game, it's on the road, but a game that is certainly winnable. And the Blazers are back Monday night against the Denver Nuggets at home again. Lots of fun. And guess what? Podcasts after these games, 5 days a week, free wherever you get podcasts, available on whatever your platform you're listening to it now and all the other ones. Just tell your friends to search Locked On Blazers and they will find us. Thanks for making the show your first listen every day. How about your second listen? You check out Locked On NBA. It's the overarching NBA show, 5 days a week, also available on all podcasts. But if you want to have a half-hour catch-up on the rest of the league, check in on Locked On NBA. I listen to it daily. I think it's a great way to kind of stay abreast of what's happening in non-Trailblazers news, and I think you'll like it too. All right, appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.